Welcome to the Reimagine Mobility podcast series. I'm here with Werner Happenhofer from Goodyear Tires. And yes, we're going to talk about tires today. And there's more than just rubber and air there. So, Werner, thank you very much for joining us. Share a little bit what you're doing at Goodyear. I mean, you're, as far as I know, electrical background, electrical engineer, right? I've done a lot of stuff in the mobility space from propulsions and software and controls hardware, and now you're at Goodyear. So clearly, without tires, we don't really have mobility that's on the ground, at least. So very important, but I think as we will find out at the end of the next 20, 25 minutes, there's a whole lot more going into tires going forward than any of us would think. So please introduce yourself, share a little bit what you do, and then let's jump in and reimagine mobility together here.
Thank you very much, Stephan, for kicking us off. It's really an absolute pleasure for me to be here and talk with you today about Reimagine mobility. And I think the Reimagine part is what we're going to take on later during that conversation. Yeah, a couple words for me, as you said, rightly so. I spent most of my career actually working in traditional controls development activities for different type of powertrain sources, predominantly ICE engines in the early phase of my career. Later then in eMobility, as I would think most of the audience would imagine, battery-related products, inverters, DC-DC converters. So again, everything that has to do with propulsion of the new electrified and electrical vehicles. So strong background in electronics and software development, system development, even though by education I'm actually a mechanical engineer. 4 months ago, I had the great opportunity to join Goodyear. And as you said, tires, why tires? What have tires to do with this mobility topic? I have had a steep learning curve in the past 4 months, and it is super exciting. And I'm pretty sure we will have a great discussion today about how important the tire is for Reimagine mobility. There is different aspects to it. So I'm very excited to be now part of Goodyear in my role as VP of Tire Intelligence and eMobility Solution. And I can tell you, I have an amazing team, a great team that backs me every day. And so we are really very much focused on make this new type of mobility happen and contribute to the level we at Goodyear believe we are obliged to be really a partner in new mobility, sustainability, with all the responsibility, social responsibility we have as well. To make this world a safer and more sustainable place.
Very good. So let's jump in then after this great background information on what you're doing at Goodyear. You're talking tires and technology, sensors, connectivity. Tell us a little bit more. What are those sensors, and why the heck would I care that I have more sensors in the tire than just my tire pressure monitor? What does it matter for the future of mobility?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people probably are aware that tire sensors exist. Usually those sensors measure pressure. They give you a nice little indication, tell you that your pressure is a little bit low and you should actually go check your tire. They usually are good enough to tell you even the location, so which tire it is that needs your attention. I think that's pretty much standard and that's well known. In many of the cars you can buy today in many markets, China, Europe, and the US. But there is certainly way more of information which we can actually gain from a tire. And the interesting thing, Stephan, is that is with more advanced sensor technology in the tire. And that starts with simple things like an RFID sensor that helps us to identify a tire. And we will figure out through the course of the next 20 minutes how important it actually is to name a tire, to have an ID for a tire, to be able to track a tire's life and what a tire has endured. And with this information, we can also provide the tire ID, its name. We can also provide what type of a tire it is. So it's actually quite simple to say, well, look, this vehicle is equipped with tires that are probably not the best fit. That might be because of the size of the tire, but that might be also if you think about summer tires and winter tires. So we can provide this information. And then there is more advanced sensors. They measure things like the pressure, the temperature. And with all this information, we really can monitor the tire status. We can monitor the wet wear status. So that means how much profile do you actually have left on your tire? We can monitor the health of a tire. We can also, to the point, even calculate with plenty of algorithms that we also develop and that come with the tires, even calculate what is what we call the footprint length. So basically the contact phase of the tire to the ground. So it's really fascinating. We know a lot of things going on around the tire and between the tire and the road surface. And we can use this information for many, many different applications.
So, I mean, it's fantastic. It's it's again, something I never really thought of other than reading my tire pressure monitor on the car and then appreciate when he tells me which tire it is and not just one of the tires, right? But let's take what you talked about, because what you're really talking about is the tires now have become an additional sensor for the vehicle, right? From a safety perspective, from a drivability perspective. But it also then brings with data, with sensors and with data, it brings, secondary or new business opportunities, right? Where Goodyear can have potentially a direct relationship with me as an end customer to say, hey, your tires are about at the end of its life. We can help you properly recycle them, but we can also give you a deal on a pair of new ones. Or you sell this data to the OEM who then does this, or to the dealership, or you just staying out of it and just kind of setting the infrastructure up to them for somebody else to do that service with that data. How does Goodyear see the future of your business when it comes to this? Is it more and more technology into the tire, or is it expanding the ecosystem away from the tire for additional, let's say, services and revenue models, et cetera? What can you share there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you already hit on a few of this, let's say, applications or potential use cases. Use cases we use this tire information and tire data for. And the interesting thing is, especially on the fleet side, this is quite well known, that we use a lot of this data already very much for fleets. So we have different products in place, a proactive solution to name one of those products, which we use predominantly in Europe, that provides information which we gain from different type of sensors in the tires, and actually additional information from the vehicle that can be other vehicle sensors which are not necessarily placed in the tire, like for example the mileage, the odometer. With this information, we send this information to our cloud, Goodyear Cloud, and work with this information. We post-process that information and have then the opportunity to provide this information well designed, for example, for service fleet managers. So the service fleet managers, their focus obviously is really to run their fleet, to minimize downtime, to minimize cost and increase downtime, minimize downtime. So increase the uptime, basically keep their fleet running 24/7 if possible, and really focus on their business, which is really carrying goods from A to B. So we can actually provide the service to tell the fleet manager very specific per vehicle, per truck, even per tire, which type of tire it is they need to pay attention to. That can go that far that we tell them, hey, look, you have an issue there. This tire is not properly inflated, and the driver really needs to pay attention. Or we provide information that these tires are really significantly worn down, and you really need to consider change the tire in the next 1,500 or 1,000 kilometers or miles. With our next generation EndGo, actually, which we have in place since 2020, EndGo is even more predictive in this as a service platform for service providers. We use this predominantly currently for last mile delivery services. Companies like postal services, Amazon, DHL, these type of companies, where we actually connect this the service provider with these fleets and fleet managers, so that they actually really can very quickly turn around vehicles and increase their uptime again in terms of planning their services whenever it is possible to again make sure we do not increase the downtime of those vehicles. And that goes that far that EndGo as a platform actually suggests when to service this vehicle. And as you know, Goodyear runs a lot of service stores as well, so we can connect those and really quickly help with tire services, oil change services, charging, also the new world, electric vehicle. So we have chargers and help fleet managers. We also, and that's the second part of your question, but we can also use this data really for vehicle-related, vehicle control, vehicle stability-related activities or improve the fidelity. As you say, this data can be submitted to OEMs directly, both the cloud, but we're also working on, I think the modern word, Stephan, is edge computing. I am a little bit old. We just call this embedded software development. But we do embed our software algorithms also in vehicle controllers and work with OEs directly. The purpose is deliver this tire information and increase fidelity, in particular of advanced driver assistance systems and safety relevant systems such as ABS or an automated emergency braking system.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that's, again, I will say it blows my mind, all these different things you just shared that I never really necessarily thought about, right? It's great. When you talk about, because one of my questions would have been, so what are future applications? I think you already answered that. So then let me kind of jump to a little related question. It seems like, based on what you said, and I want to make sure either understand it or we want to clarify it for everybody listening and tuning in, is that the more advanced sensors or the more advanced tires from a technology perspective, more used by the commercial side because the immediate impact on preventing downtime, increasing or reducing your return on investment, et cetera, versus passenger vehicles where the OEMs maybe more slowly get to the higher end technologies and tires. Am I seeing this right, or is it the exact opposite?
No, actually you're seeing that right. In terms of today's application, the tire intelligence and Goodyear's Sideline, this is our tire intelligence platform that supports this, is very much implemented in fleets currently. In Europe, to the point that there is also regulation for certain tire-related information that has to be made available basically to fleets, or at least to the driver. We are looking more into the fleet management solutions. And in the US, usually we see this at very large fleets that really want to tapping into this type of service. On the consumer side, what we know today is mostly really related on the pressure sensor and the information, hey, your tire has an issue, please inflate. But especially with the advanced ADAS systems and the whole industry transitioning towards more and more autonomy in the vehicle, the different levels of autonomy, which are well defined, and some of our listeners out there will understand what I'm talking about. So advanced ADAS systems, they need actually this information to be able to operate at a higher level of fidelity. They really need to know what is actually the friction level between a tire and the road. If you think about an ABS system that really makes sure to reduce or minimize your braking distance. If an ABS system knows in advance that the road is icy and we have actually a minimized friction potential between tire and road, then the ABS system can be preconditioned, and we can actually brake the car at really optimized or based on optimized information, a higher degree of fidelity of the information available. And this is what we see. This is the trend, and it's predominantly also pushed by the means of developing the autonomous vehicle. And traditional OEMs, they move forward step by step towards a higher degree and higher level of autonomy they want to offer to their consumers, to us. And for those vehicles, it's actually essential that we provide the information which we can. And so we work with OEs a lot. In really the near future, there will be OEs out there that literally use this type of tire information in their system, and also to inform drivers about what's going on with the tire beyond just the pressure information.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Werner, that you bring up exactly that example of ice on the road detecting, right? Because we currently have one of our cars that when it reaches a certain temperature, I think it's 34 degrees, there's a warning label on my cluster saying a road might be icy, right? But for me, after a while, you say, great, it's there at 34 degrees and it's there at negative 20 degrees. And if it snows or if it's whatever, salt or gravel or whatever, so it really doesn't mean much for me anymore because I'm not paying attention to it, right? That would have been one of my questions is, okay, so is this going to get enhanced and really something where after a while, like, no, the sensor is right. It is icy or it might be cold. And just because it's cold and snow doesn't mean there's ice and the warning is not there. So I think you answered that the OEMs with your technology are slowly but surely getting to that point where consumers can really take notice and action instead of kind of like, yeah, there's another light, but ignoring it, right?
Absolutely. This is exactly right. So this information is being used in these systems, and it's then not just a warning, hey, pay attention, it might be icy, and we all know these nice yellow road signs. The bridge might ice quicker. We all know this. So we have the ability to actually detect the slip with plenty of additional information and provide this information. And so the systems like an ABS system or a vehicle control system can really work with this information, can consider this information, and can provide more vehicle stability while driving under these conditions. I can also hint that we ought to go even a little bit further, because we all know once we are on the ice, sometimes it's too late. We recognize we're on the ice, but there is not much we can do anymore. We're already too fast. We're already, the car is already veering and swerving, and we cannot do anymore. What we want to do is actually we work with plenty of partners as well that provide weather information, and to the point that we actually want to have a road prediction. That might be a camera system, that might be a LiDAR system, where we just look a little bit ahead of the vehicle to see what's going on, and then can even precondition our own algorithms accordingly, as we expect already a certain level of friction or a certain friction potential. And this is the information we use. And if you imagine you are still a driver, you are a very experienced driver, Stephan, and so you can actually, it's cold and there might be something, but it's actually dry, so there won't be any ice, or it's not dry, so I need to pay more attention. An autonomous vehicle doesn't have this ability. Especially if you take the driver away in autonomous vehicles, this is not possible. So we need to provide this information to the vehicle control systems, to the vehicle stability systems, so that those systems can maneuver the vehicle in a safe way.
Yeah, interesting. Two more questions, Werner. One, and that's really what I'm interested in, having had many tires with a nail in it from our roads here, okay, and maybe wrapping this around a little bit, yes, when are you going to have tires that automatically push that nail out and I don't need to, put a replacement in, it just blows it up and fixes it without me having to do anything. And obviously I don't want to pay more, okay? Of course I don't. So, but that, an example, okay, what I'm really interested in, but what is then, from hearing all the stuff that we can already do, that you guys can already do with your technology, again, the only thing that comes to mind, the only thing that's next is, you fix my tire and I never have to change it when there's a hole in it, right, or as a nail gets in it. But joking aside, is this something you're looking at? And if not, or if yes, when do we see it? But what else is there? What is something that we may start seeing in 5 or 10 years that you guys are already working on and you can share, of course?
Yeah, we are working on this, and we also have showcased this type of the tire at the previous CES events. And generally spoken, the Goodyear tire has actually an ability, if you drive over a nail, to seal as much as possible. And I'm not saying this is great and you can keep using the tire. Don't do this. Of course, the tire performance is deteriorate. But it is not that you have an immediate loss of pressure, which might really cause issues because of instability of the vehicle. So it is kind of sealed, and but you would then really want to change the tire when you notice that this has happened. But again, coming back to especially autonomous vehicles, there is no one that would recognize there is a tire. Yes, we can detect what we call a slow leak. If you have a slow leakage, if you have a nail in a tire, and then can really take care of the vehicle. But if you think about vehicles, delivery robots, for example, and that might be known, Goodyear Ventures invested in the company Starship. They do these tiny little robots. Those feed vehicles, they have 6 tiny little tires, and they deliver your pizza or whatever you want in certain geofenced areas, like a campus, university campus. And for these robots, we did develop what we call non-pneumatic tires. So tires that do not have air. So if those tires run over something and get punched, they're not losing air. It's a tire that has a construction inside that basically keeps the tire, the structure intact. And we work on this also for vehicle tires, but this is really pre-development. This is certainly will take many more years until we're gonna see this. But again, on CES, you can actually see this type of tire and how does our non-pneumatic tire look like. It's interesting. We definitely see the need for this type of tires, but then when you think the economical aspect, what is the cheapest way to keep a tire inflated? That's air, because air doesn't cost something. If you have a construction that keeps the tire inflated, the shape of the tire, that is material that has to be manufactured, handled, that is cost. So we are looking into this, but we do see in the future, especially if you think about autonomous vehicles in special geofence situation, mining, trucks that go down miles down mining, there is no people around, you would need this type of tire.
Excellent. Good. I'm looking forward to it. And then my last question for you, Werner. What's going to be the next car you buy and why?
I really love to try technology. I have in my garage both an ICE car and a hybrid car, and an electric vehicle because I really want to try this. And all of them, of course, are equipped with Goodyear tires. Or some of our brands, I need to admit. I also have one car equipped with Kelly tires. But it is really this experience, and especially talking about electric vehicle, we all know that it's fascinating, the torque, the high torque, the launchability of these vehicles is amazing. It puts a little bit of strain on tire performance. So we at Goodyear, we really work on this as well, or we have actually electric vehicle-specific tires on the market that have a slightly different ability in terms of tread wear. Those tires usually wear much faster because of the higher launch torque and also the higher weight. Usually electric vehicles are much heavier. So we're looking into this, and then there's many more aspects. Electric vehicles are usually not as noisy as ICE vehicles. The motor would mask any type of rolling noise. So these tires in particular need to be optimized for noise as well, and that's what we do. Yeah. And I love to try these things. I am really a car guy and a technology guy. So it's fascinating to have the ability to work and experience all these different things.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Werner. I mean, I'm going to look at tires way different going forward, and I'll definitely will look for this never deflating tire that Goodyear is going to bring out in a few years. Thank you so much for joining us on Reimagine Mobility. Thank you, Werner, for your time and your insight.
Thank you very much, Stephan. It was really my honor. Thanks a lot, and all the best to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Reimagine Mobility Podcast. If you like this episode, please subscribe and tell a friend.